Tech giant Apple released its earnings report, and we're here to break it down. Let's talk about it. Welcome back, Chris. Great to have you. So Apple reported earnings last night after the market closed, and they were beat on top and bottom lines, although there are soft expectations, which honestly feels like a new normal these days, Chris. But what is your take on the report?
So, Laycee, first of all, thanks for having me on. And second of all, I'd say Apple's report to me was a mixed bag, but to me, that's kind of what Apple does. You and I were talking with Don this morning, and I said, Apple's a yeah, but stock.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, that's what this earnings report was. It's not going to change how you feel about Apple either way. If you're bullish about Apple, you're going to listen to some of the bearish commentary about the report, and you're going to say, yeah, but. And if you're bearish about Apple, you're going to look at some of the bullish aspects of the report, and you're going to say, yeah, but. There's nothing there that's really going to change people's sentiment one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Apple does tend to go down after earnings reports. The last 3 quarters, it's gone down very sharply after earnings reports. I noticed this morning it's down. I think it's trading around 185 right now. So it's not going to surprise me if Apple trades a little bit lower right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's anything fundamentally in the report that would justify that.
All right, Chris. So I know you're generally bullish on Apple, but are you happy after this report? Is there anything in here that maybe gives you a pause, stop and think about it a little bit more? I mean, services have seemed to save the day for them, as we saw. But what are your thoughts kind of on that?
So when I think about Apple, yes, I am generally bullish on it. I don't look at it in terms of saying the reports make me happy or sad. I didn't expect Apple to hit it out of the park, and so the report doesn't really surprise me. I'm not buying or selling Apple based on iPhone sales. The company's a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Services, as you mentioned, were up. PC sales were up. The company continues to build a solid cash position. I mean, I could go on and on. Yes, I can point to the bearish argument that this is the 3rd consecutive quarter, or maybe the 4th consecutive quarter, where revenue has come in lighter year over year. Now, I would tend to say that all that really does is confirm what a lot of people don't want to say, which is that we've been in a recession for a while, and therefore it would make sense that a company like Apple, which makes high, big ticket items such as an iPhone, is going to see a little bit of a change in revenue. And you might even turn that argument to something more bullish and say, why would revenue not be down even more? But having said all of that, the company makes $158 billion a day. It's one of the most widely held companies by any institutional investors. They have to own Apple, and that's bullish for the stock.
All right, Chris. So we had asked our subscribers on a poll this week on our YouTube community page. If you're not following that, go ahead and give us a subscribe there. We're posting, questions to further engage you guys, talk about what's going on in the market. So give us a like and a follow on that. But anyway, we had asked if the stock price was baked into this report. I mean, Apple is up 51% this year, but it's typical, as you said, for Apple to pull back some after earnings. Do you see opportunity here?
I do. I think, for long-term investors, you're actually going to welcome a pullback a little bit because it will give you a chance to add to your position at a better price. But I think with Apple overall, you have to always look at the stock with a wider lens. Over the last 10 years, the stock's up almost 1,300%. And I know that could take the bears could say, yeah, but the stock was up over 63,000% over the last 20 years. So there you see growth is slowing.
Yeah.
Okay. Growth is growth. If this is a $3 trillion company, growth is going to slow over time. And I believe personally, Apple's got more tricks up its sleeve.
Sure.
A lot of people are looking at AI, and I am too, with their VR goggles that are coming out, which really aren't intended for the consumer yet, but more for the developers who are going to be developing the apps for it. But I'm also looking at other things like the company's moving its supply chain to India. And they're doing that at a fairly aggressive pace, which is intriguing. What are the company's plans for Apple TV? There's been some talk even that Apple could be looking at buying Disney at some point. I don't know how much credence there is to that, but there's
Yeah.
intriguing things going on with the company beyond just the iPhone.
So, Chris, I know you're not a trader, but do you have any advice for viewers with us today that are maybe thinking about a trade around earnings?
So I'm not a trader, and I would say I'm not going to chase Apple higher right now. But as I said, if there's a pullback, I might look for that. If you are really dying to make a trade on Apple right now and you're concerned that it might really drop, there's a couple of options. One would be that you put in a really low order, um, like for around, let's say, 160. That would be a drop of around 20% from its current price. If it never hits that price, your order never goes through and you don't lose anything, but it does. If it does, you get the shares at a great price. And if you're comfortable trading options, you could always buy put options. If you think the price has reached a short-term peak, I mean, trading options does carry risk, but if you're a risk-tolerant investor, this is a good way to. It's a strategy to make money no matter which way Apple goes.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments down below if you're a long-term investor for Apple, if you're looking at trading. We want to know your thoughts on this one. Leave us your yeah, but comment down below. I know Chris wants to see those. So yeah, leave us those comments. But as Chris mentioned, Apple's earnings, it was a mixed bag. I mean, we're leaving both bullish and bearish investors with something to think about here. But with Apple's diverse business segments and its position, there's always going to be something to consider more than just the immediate numbers. Chris, do you have anything else you want to end on with this one?
Not really. Again, the report really, to me, it was kind of not much of anything, but you know, uh, to me, Apple's still a long-term buy.
We'll be keeping our eye on it. Well, thanks for joining me today, Chris. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me, Laycee.